Hello, I'm gonna show you how to use Glga to do device photometry here. So first, before doing everything else, we are gonna open IDL, and the first thing that we are gonna set is Glga root, which basically tells us where the database is located on the disk. After setting up that parameter, then we run glga using this command. Basically, this file is the file that contains all of these PGC galaxies. The first column is PGC, or the idea of the galaxy, then it follows by the right ascension, declination, semi-major and semi-minor axis, position angle, and the type of the galaxy. So I have preloaded the new the bright catalog of galaxies to this file, and then I'm gonna run this command, and it starts with the first galaxy, but for the sake of having a bigger galaxy with good data, I'm gonna show you galaxy number 11. So to switch to galaxy number 11, I'm gonna press that button here, and then I'm gonna enter the number of the galaxy here in the terminal. So in the current catalog, I have 200 galaxies, 199 galaxies, and this is the first one. When I enter the number of the galaxy, I'm gonna switch to that galaxy. Apparently it didn't work the way I wanted, so I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna or I can still work on this galaxy. So these galaxies have three different images, basically W1, W2, and W3. I haven't downloaded W4, but we have W1, W2, and W3. By switching back and forth between different bands here, you should be able to see a galaxy at different bands in black and white or grayscale. But since the galaxy here is super faint, it doesn't show up in the JPEG with the scaling factors that I've used to create these images. Therefore, I'm gonna just use the DS9 to just evaluate these galaxies. To show up the DS9, I'm gonna use this area. So basically, if you are on W1 here, if you set this controller on W1 and then you press DS9 here, it opens up the corresponding fits file for W1 filter. The galaxy still is super faint. I'm gonna change the scale here. Basically, you don't see any galaxy because it is really faint. To see these galaxies at optical bands, I'm gonna use HyperLIDA here, and if I enter the name of the galaxy here, 2544, you see there is a tiny window here that you can make it full screen, and basically galaxy that we are going to do the photometry for is located here. So I don't expect to get very high signal to noise for this fun, but basically I'm gonna just change the size of the ellipses here. I'm gonna switch to the mode that I can edit the region files here. I'm gonna remove these annulus around that galaxy. I'm gonna just make that aperture as small as possible, like probably around this region, and then I'm gonna since I've changed the size of the ellipse and I modified it, I have to import this elliptical shape to the GLGA window. This is the way these two windows are talking to each other. I'm gonna press import. That ellipse is imported here, and the annulus that is going to be used to evaluate the sky background would be displayed around it. And also these areas are the stars that have been found automatically. If I place this plus sign here, it means that it's gonna find more stars, and it's gonna change the parameters in such a way that it's more sensitive to the stars. Alright, so if you are happy with the current setup, we can just run the pipeline by pressing this button. And it comes back with this kind of information, and there is another one which is displayed here. If you are going to see the results for different wavelengths, you can just go to the profiles. You can press W2 and it reloads the results of W2, and also a summary is available here. As you see, the growth curve is increasing here, which means that probably the sky background has not been evaluated correctly. So I'm gonna increase the size of this aperture a little bit by using this plus sign next to the ellipse size, and it increases the size of the ellipse here. If you open up the S9 again, it reloads the image at W1, which is the default, and it displays that elliptical aperture here. I'm gonna rescale again, and this is basically very messy. Probably we need to find more stars. And also this region, for example, we are gonna use bigger region for mask. So to add a mask, I'm gonna press this button, add region. Then once you clicked on it, you need to go here in the display and then click on different places, and whenever you are happy, you press right click and it closes up the region. If you are happy with the region that you have chosen, you press yes. And probably I'm gonna mask this region as well. In order to show up these stars here that we found earlier, we can click here. This part of this control panel is related to the DS9 control stuff. Like if you press on the clear region here, it clears all the regions or whatever you see on DS9. And if you wanna display these sources or these foreground objects, these centroids, you click on centroids and they show up here. There is a slight offset that has not been resolved here, but that's okay. For example, for this object, probably this area, they need to be a little bit masked out. So I'm gonna go ahead, left click until I am happy, and right click to close up the region. And probably that's okay. If you wanna just add round regions or circular regions, you can use this region bar here. It gives you different possibilities and different sizes of round regions. To see how big the region is, the region, you can just use middle click to just test out the region that you've seen here. And whenever you are happy with the size of the region, you can lock it, and then you can left click here and the added regions are in green. So the red regions here, the red circles, means that I have tried to see the size of the region that I have chosen. So if I want to do that again, I'm gonna use the middle click on the mouse. And whenever I am happy with whatever I did here, I'm gonna refresh, and you see that those red circles, they are gone, and those green circles are the added regions that I just created. The difference between regions and centroids is that centroids are found automatically, but the regions are added by users manually. And so whenever you use this plus and minus sign, it means that it decreases or increases the sensitivity to the foreground stars. If you want to delete centroids, you use this button and immediately you go to the terminal to see what kind of parameter it shows you. If you want to remove one region, for example, let's say I'm gonna remove this region here, I'm gonna press on this button, and basically it says that you're gonna click on this one and it removes it. If you want to remove another region, you just click on this button again, it becomes activated, and then you click on this region and it would be removed. So I'm gonna add this region back to this display, and I'm gonna repeat the photometry again by pressing the photometry button. Again, it shows me that the background probably is not very well evaluated, so I'm gonna just use one of these 2 points to measure the slope of that line, and based on the slope of the growth curve we are gonna correct for the background level. To do that, you go here to the background menu and then modify background radius, and you click here, and it says that enter the back radius in the terminal in terms of arc minutes, and probably I'm gonna use 1.1. I press OK and go to terminal, enter 1.1 and then enter that number, and you can still continue your work if you have additional work here, if you want to add or remove any more regions, and then you can just run the photometry. Since I've changed the background level, or I'm telling the pipeline to modify the background level, it comes back with a menu to warn us that the background level would be modified. I'm gonna click on the yes button here and continue the photometry. Basically, it removed basically all the background and it didn't work as I wished. So to set the background to 0 value again, if we didn't like whatever result that we see here, we go to the background menu bar here and reset back radius, and it doesn't do anything, it just sets it back to 0. If I run it again, I end up with whatever previously I got. And for this particular object, you can spend longer time, but I don't think that we can get any better results, because basically if you look at the object here, the signal of the object is not that much, and basically the rest of the image is just foreground stars. So no matter how hard we try, we are not gonna end up with a good result here. So basically whenever we are getting to a conclusion, or we are happy or unhappy with the photometry, we are gonna click on quit, next, which means that we are gonna store the results of whatever results that we've got, and we are gonna move to the next object. I'm gonna press that button. Append new regions means that the new region that I just created would be added to whatever I already had. I'm gonna do that, and we end up with this window that tells me flags and nodes. We are done with the photometry. This is the flags set, row number 1, row number 2, and the reason that if you are going to flag something, you can just add something like I'm uncertain, or if you observe different things at different bands, you can just use this section. And photometry quality, I'm gonna set it to 1 here, or 0, because I'm not happy with that photometry quality, and I'm gonna write loss signal to noise ratio. Close and continue. It saves all the results and it continues to the next object. I'm gonna record the material for the next object in my next screencast.